Hello guys, and more of the Russian regions are on the brink of bankruptcy. In total, Russia's regional budgets lack $20 billion, and that is a lot. But what is more important is the tendency that we observe. Back in 2024, there were 50 such regions. And just a year later, at the end of 2025, there were 74. A kind but important reminder, Russia has 83 federal subjects, so we may say the vast majority experiences these serious problems with the budget, including Moscow, the sacred for Putin city that also lacks $2 billion in its budget. Actually, funny how Russians keep measuring their problems in dollars, understanding that if they switch to rubles, it will literally look even worse. What are the main reasons? Of course, the exhausting war. At the beginning of the invasion, a lot of money were fueled in the military industry, and a lot of war criminals who joined the Russian army received their payments, and it gave a short-lived illusion of success in the Russian economy. But right now, when the federal budget is empty, the national wealth fund is empty, and more problems happen to various spheres of the Russian industry, people realize they are in a bigger trouble than it was in the 90s. And 90s are treated as a nightmare in every Russian family. So it's not surprising that more and more of these regions actually say they do not enjoy the idea of the so-called special military operation as long as it makes them poorer, and actually more and more explosions occur in very different parts of this once totally safe largest country in the world. So let's discuss what are the tendencies inside Russia's regional budgets and what these tendencies tell us about the attitudes of the local governments towards the Kremlin and the decision to continue the war in Ukraine. My name is Anna, I'm from Ukraine, I'm in Ukraine, and if you want to see the defeat and demilitarization of Russia, subscribe, share these videos and help us spread the truth. In the end of 2025, literally almost every Russian region reported serious shortages in their regional budgets. And that is a problem because once very rich regions that are heavily involved in the production of gas, oil, coal are now bankrupt. This is the result of this war. This is the result of people's choice and Putin's 25-year reign. So, in total, Russian regions lack $20 billion. Already, we're not talking about the federal budget, which is also negative, not just empty, but negative, lacking trillions of rubles, but now regional. And honestly, it looks like there is no source in Russia that can help them survive or keep afloat at this very moment in their economy. So they lack $20 billion on the level of regional budgets, which can be translated into something like 1.48 trillion rubles. And honestly, I just love how often we come across the word trillion when talking about the Russian financial system, and it tells us everything about inflation, about the state of ruble, and in general the state of the country that returns back to the worst of 90s experiences. And honestly, that was a decade after the collapse of the USSR, when the first oligarchs began robbing people, getting best businesses, and the country was in total chaos. Russians do not like it. They often choose strong hands, as they described Putin, give up their freedoms, their rights for the sake of financial stability. And now they've lost this too. So they sacrificed their freedoms. Now they don't have access to internet or telegram, something that bothers them a lot. And now they also have problems with money, and general conscription looks very likely in 2026 again, because Putin has no money to pay soldiers on contracts. So these regional budgets were literally destroyed by falling buying capacity of people, lack of tourism. We discussed that about Sochi, for example, 30% of tourists lost. Also because a lot of regions are in active war zone with strategic sites destroyed. Many were working for the military. oil and gas industry. And perhaps the best illustration is the situation in two of Russia's region. I will quote that, for example, Yamalo-Nenets region, which is Russia's largest gas producing region, and it was always associated with wells and gas-related businesses, but sanctions, Putin's economic mismanagement, inability to back up some of the businesses led that now this region already lacks $1 billion, not earns this money for their local needs, not earns this money for the federal budget, but already lacks 1 billion. Another region that was successful, involved heavily in the production of oil, and that is Khanty-Mansiysk, also lacks $1 billion already. And, of course, greatly this is the result of the Ukrainian drone sanctions that turned out to be very effective, and also your economic sanctions that literally ruined Russia's gas and oil industry, and in the end of 2025 they lacked 50% of their revenues. An important reminder, Russia is a country fully dependent on the export of its natural resources, and losing 50% of gas and oil revenues means losing 50% almost to the federal budget. And the same is observed on the local level. And to prove that the situation in general is very bad, it's enough to look at the Moscow city budget. You know, that is the heart of the evil empire, that is the city that Putin worries a lot about, especially after it became an active war zone too, with explosions, with air raid alerts, with cancelled flights. But now the city also lacks billions of dollars in its regional budget. And I will tell you that at the moment they do not have like minus $3 billion. That is a lot. Moscow has always been a priority, and the fact that there is nothing they can fuel into the capital's budget only proves the situation. You know, most economists agree that right now the financial, banking, economic, industrial system of the Russian Federation is already on that stage that it cannot be reversed. They cannot be saved. The collapse is coming. But Putin does not hear his advisors. He does not listen to people. He prefers to switch off internet, telegram, believing that he has a plan, just as he had for, you know, like Kyiv in 3 days. And here I am in Kyiv sitting on a nice kitchen, and I hope Russian trolls will keep saying like, woman, your place is on the kitchen. So here I am speaking about the collapse of the Russian economy directly from the Kyiv kitchen. Definitely something they did not expect back in February 2022, and I believe it deserves your thumbs up and some positive comments to help these videos gain attention of people who still know very little about Russia and how easily it can be defeated, because right now it is the weakest and the poorest ever. So Putin chooses not to listen to advisors, not to seriously consider the need to continue the war, but he keeps pressuring people, increases taxes so that even his oligarchs like Deripaska speak openly against his economic policy. And this is not bravery, this is not opposition, this is just like the reality breaking into their minds, and they are trying to save their businesses, but they will fail. And I believe that more and more experts, even those who are neutral, understand that Putin's decision to begin this full-scale invasion, his inability to achieve the aims of Blitzkrieg, actually triggered the collapse of the Russian Federation, which traditionally for Moscow begins from economy. Something very similar happened back in the end of 80s. Then they had a very serious financial crisis in the 90s, and this helped Putin get this totally uncontrollable power. And I'm sure that this financial crisis will perhaps and his regime. Let me know what are your thoughts. Share these videos to spread the truth. Also follow me on Anna Danilchuk channel for longer weekly conversations. The links to my Instagram, Threads, Blue Sky, Discord, and Substack are in the description of this video, same as the link to the merch shop. Check, there are lots of good products that work well as reminders and conversation starters about Ukraine. Thank you for buying me coffees, becoming my patrons and sponsors of the channels, but most importantly, thank you for standing with Ukraine. Slava Ukraini!